Most people aren't going to watch the whole video, so TLDR, I once testified against a rapist. That's what this video is about. Back in 2010, I was deployed to Iraq. Now, there's absolutely no way for me to explain my job without it sounding way cooler than it actually was. I was probably the safest person in the entire country with the safest, most boring job a soldier could have. I was an interrogator. Because of this job, I had acquired special skills that will play an important role in this story. While in Iraq, I started dating a fellow soldier. We started having sex and hanging out every night. What you need to understand is that when most people hear deployed to Iraq, they think of actual war. I was on a fob, in a fob, pushing paperwork for fancy people who actually did the war. Anyways, we had a lot of free time and found creative ways to fill that time. One night, she didn't show up to our spot. We didn't have cell phones. It was like growing up during the 90s. You make plans and just hope everyone shows up on time. One night, she didn't show up, so I went back to my room and furiously masturbated with a pocket pussy this German girl I knew mailed to me. True story. The next day, I'm at work doing my super boring paperwork and I messaged the girl. I could tell by the way she was typing that something was wrong. So very wrong. I took an early lunch and went to meet up with her. As soon as I get to her, I could tell by her body language something really bad had happened. Like I said, I was an interrogator with 3 years work experience at this point and had been to several schools like the Reed interrogation technique. When you, the average human, hears interrogator, you start thinking torture. That's the first question every single human asks me when they find out I used to interrogate terrorists for a living. That's not what we do. The actual job is more like a journalist who interviews people. You're trying to be their friend, you're trying to butter them up. You want them to like you, so they'll share info with you. The actual job is nothing like you think it is. All this training comes in handy when, let's say you're hitting on women and trying to get in their pants. I'm just being honest. So I'm using all the specialized training I have to talk to this girl and figure out what the fuck happened to her. Another soldier drugged her and then raped her. He was not only an officer, he was a doctor. Liberals have lied to you pretty much about everything. Most of you have been brainwashed in this situation to think that a low-ranked female in the military doesn't stand a chance against an officer, or that the military doesn't take these situations seriously and won't listen to or protect the female soldiers. It's all lies and propaganda because liberals are disgusting people. Every Friday in the Army, you attend a safety briefing. Before this day, I always thought of these safety briefings as complete bullshit time wasters. At a previous safety briefing, I learned of the sharp counselor, so I knew that's who she needed to see. She was unwilling to go. I literally had to convince her to report her rapist. That's how strong the propaganda is. This woman had been drugged and raped, and she believed no one would believe her. That's what liberals are doing to the women of my country. They are convincing them not to report their rapes. Are you people starting to understand now why I fucking hate liberals? In the Army, when you report a sexual assault, you're given two options. A closed investigation, where no one in the unit knows who the victim is to maintain their privacy, and then there's an open investigation where everyone knows what's going on. Because she came to me first instead of the sharp counselor, they couldn't do a closed investigation. All hell broke loose. I thought my part in this thing was over. I learned of a rape and told her to report it. What else am I supposed to do? So the Army did this big investigation. I was surprised how quickly they did the investigation and then set up a trial in Iraq. I get called on to testify, which threw me for a loop. I have no firsthand knowledge of the event that took place. In my opinion, my testimony wasn't important. The rapist said he didn't have sex with her, but his semen was found on her clothes. If he said he didn't have sex with her, then how did his semen get onto her clothes? Most surprising was that I got called to testify for the defense, not the prosecution. Okay. This next part I am extremely proud of. Before the trial, I was interviewed by both the defense and the prosecution. The prosecution's lawyer was this very nice person, and I have a lot of respect for her. She knew her shit, and I had confidence in her. The defense lawyer was quite the asshole. Now, in the civilian world, you expect defense lawyers to be sleazy and do whatever they can to get their client off. But we were all soldiers. There's a brotherhood. He was not hired by the rapist to get him out of trouble. He was assigned by the military. And yet, he still used every sleazy tactic he could. And I have no respect for this pathetic man. This traitor, this fucking scumbag. He interviewed me several times before the trial, and I could not stand him. I could tell he was doing everything he could to get his client off on a technicality. I don't know how a soldier can find out another soldier was raped and then act this way. The rapist deserves a good legal defense. I get that. We're a nation of laws, and we're all innocent until proven guilty. I can't properly express what I went through with this defense lawyer and how frustrating it was. His semen was on her clothes. Open and shut case. Anyways, I'm sitting on the stand and the prosecution questions me first. I don't remember anything she asked, but it wasn't long. It's now the defense's turn.
How did you learn of this?
I was friends with her and she was acting weird in a bad way, so I talked to her to figure out what was wrong.
What makes you think she isn't lying?
Okay, well, she had her head down and her arms were crossing this way and she was clearly traumatized by something.
How do you know she wasn't sick?
What?
The way she was acting. She could have been sick with the flu. How did you know from her body language something bad happens?
When you're sick, your arms kind of go over your stomach like this, not over your chest.
Well, sometimes when I'm sick, my arms grab my stomach, and sometimes they cross over my chest. I mean, how would you know she wasn't just sick?
Sir, that's not what humans do. You don't cross your arms over your chest, refuse to make eye contact when you're sick. She was clearly traumatized by something.
How can you say that for certain?
Do you guys see where this is going yet? Well, sir, maybe it had something to do with the 6 months I spent in interrogator school learning body language, or the years on deployment doing my job that I've learned to recognize the difference between someone who is sick and someone who is traumatized. She wasn't sick.
Are you sure they won't notice how this was filmed?
Nah, it'll be fine.
Aren't you worried about putting jokes during a serious video?
Nah, it'll be fine. The prosecution let out an audible laugh. The courtroom was dead silent and everyone knew what just happened. Slam dunk! I just dunked on that asshole. It was such a great feeling. The next thing he said was, "No further questions, Your Honor," and I was dismissed. I'd be lying if I said that didn't feel good. The rapist was convicted and he went to jail for 8 years. The only downside to this whole situation for me is that I legit live in fear. I'm honestly worried that one day the rapist will find me and get revenge. Luckily, I live in a stand your ground state, and let's just hope that if he ever finds me, my pistol training is better than his. I'm not joking in the slightest when I say I live in fear. Every day in the back of my head, I'm thinking that one day, I'll get a knock on my door, and it's him with a gun. It's something I think about every single day. I even have nightmares because of it. It makes me almost regret testifying. But yeah, to sum up, liberals lie about everything and not only push propaganda that makes women scared to report sexual assaults. They're trash people who do nothing to make our society better. She didn't want to report her rape because she thought no one would believe her. Good thing the first person she told was a conservative. Otherwise, nothing would have happened in this situation. Next time you hear in the news something about the military not taking sexual assault serious and not keeping our women safe, it's complete fucking bullshit. At no point did my unit question her story. At no point did my unit deny her access to anything. The exact moment she went for help, she received help. The ones that make national and international news, that's because they didn't fucking report it. Your unit will believe you. Your unit will do something about it. The worst thing you can do is not tell anyone.